After being on the air for 6 seasons and 180 half-hour episodes, the hugely influential and loved American sitcom I Love Lucy wrapped up with its unexpected and somewhat anticlimactic series finale on May 6, 1957. Join Factsverse as we look at the final send-off episode of the pioneering series. The final episode of I Love Lucy. Over the 6 years I Love Lucy had been on the air, it had succeeded in creating some of the most beloved and iconic moments in the history of TV. The final episode was titled The Ricardos Dedicate a Statue. Its plot involved Lucy organizing a Revolutionary Day celebration, which, as the title would suggest, included a statue dedication. Ricky was all set to give his dedication speech when Lucy accidentally broke the statue. Not wanting to get in trouble for her blunder, Lucy then took the statue's place after covering herself in stone makeup. But as usual, Lucy's plan was foiled when a dog started licking her face, blowing her cover. In usual I Love Lucy fashion, the episode's slapstick plot led to many laughs and amusing moments. It was certainly funny, but it doesn't stand out as a particularly different episode from many of the other in the series, and it certainly didn't seem like the most fitting end to a 6-year journey. The thing is, although The Ricardos Dedicate a Statue was I Love Lucy's final episode, it's unlikely that any of the show's cast members knew it would be the final installment at the time. That explains why it lacks any kind of emotional farewells and doesn't feature a plot that satisfyingly wrapped things up. After 6 seasons, audiences at least deserved some kind of goodbye, but they weren't given that luxury. It's not that the episode lacked spirit. Ball was once again seen in her element, but at the end of the day, it still felt very anticlimactic. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Factsverse for more, and stick around for more about I Love Lucy's cancellation. The reason why I Love Lucy was canceled. There are actually a few different factors that played a part in I Love Lucy's cancellation. For one thing, the show's stars were starting to grow tired of the weekly grind of putting together a half-hour show. After the network announced they didn't want any more 30-minute series, Ball and Arnaz were given the chance to tackle more ambitious projects. This ultimately led to the I Love Lucy spin-off series that aired in the years following. Desi had first suggested the idea of doing an hour-long show to CBS in 1954, but they weren't interested at that time. But by 1957, Desi could tell everyone was starting to feel a little burned out on the weekly half-hour format. So he made up his mind and made it happen. The Desi-Lucy Comedy Hour was a collection of 13 hour-long specials that aired between 1957 and 60. It originally aired as part of the Westinghouse Desi-Lu Playhouse, and it also initially was billed as the Ford Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz show for its first season. The show was the direct successor to I Love Lucy and featured all of its predecessor main cast members. The first 5 episodes aired in 1957, and the remaining 8 ran periodically over the next several years. The transition to the Desi-Lucy Comedy Hour's production schedule alleviated some of the fatigue that the cast had been feeling after grinding away every week on I Love Lucy. Desi-Lu Productions, the company that Ball and Arnaz had founded, produced the show, and it was primarily filmed at their studio in Los Angeles, while occasionally filming on location at places like Lake Arrowhead, Las Vegas, and Sun Valley, Idaho. CBS later reran the show in the summers of 1962 to 67. After the repeats were aired, I Love Lucy and the Desi-Lucy Comedy Hour went into syndication. Ball and Arnaz's divorce. After 20 often turbulent years of marriage, Lucille Ball divorced Desi Arnaz on March 4, 1960, just 3 days after Desi's 43rd birthday and 2 days after the 13th and final episode of the Desi-Lucy Comedy Hour aired. Their split was one of the highest-profile divorces in American pop culture history. When Ball filed the divorce paperwork with the Santa Monica Superior Court, she claimed that being married to Desi was a nightmare, and it wasn't like anything people saw on I Love Lucy. During the 2 decades the couple were wed, Ball had to contend with Arnaz's alcoholism and philandering ways. Evidently, Ball eventually caught wind of her husband's infidelity when she was presented with a news article while on the set of I Love Lucy that discussed Arnaz's womanizing and unfaithfulness. Lucille took the magazine back to her dressing room while the show's cast and crew braced for her anticipated meltdown. But instead of becoming irate when she emerged, she merely tossed the magazine at Desi and said something along the lines of, "I could have told them worse than that." Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's last kiss. 2 days before they got divorced, Ball and Arnaz shared their last kiss at the close of the last episode of their Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour series. This episode was titled Lucy Meets the Mustache. Even though their marriage was already destined for the chopping block, this intimate and heartfelt final moment was a fitting end to a show that carried on the legacy of one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. After Ball filed for divorce, she reportedly was very despondent for quite a while. She crashed on friends' couches for a while before eventually landing work on a Broadway show that ended up flopping. But instead of giving up, Ball moved on. She refused to let her failed marriage define her career. The end of that relationship may have caused the Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour to end, but it also opened up a number of new doors for the spunky redhead. A year after divorcing Desi, Lucille moved to New York. After appearing in that unsuccessful Broadway offering, Wildcat, she married her second husband, comedian Gary Morton. Ball returned to TV in early 1962 when she appeared in a CBS special called The Good Years alongside Henry Fonda, but she was fairly adamant she would not be returning to weekly television. During this time, Desi-Lu Productions was dealing with troubles. In the spring of 1961, 4 of Desi-Lu's comedies were canceled. Arnaz then offered Ball an opportunity to do another weekly sitcom, the thing she claimed she wanted nothing to do with. The Lucy Show premiered on CBS later that year. The show was Lucille's follow-up to I Love Lucy, but it was never meant to last longer than a single season. It was intended to be a stopgap measure and nothing more. Thinking it would only be a temporary project, Ball agreed to do the show under the condition that it would only be shown on Monday nights, the same night of the week that I Love Lucy aired, and that she'd be joined by her former co-star Vivian Vance, as well as her team of writers from that show. When CBS agreed, The Lucy Show premiered on Monday, October 1st, 1962. Despite only being imagined as a short-lived series, The Lucy Show went on to air 6 seasons and 156 episodes. Here's Lucy. After The Lucy Show ended in 1968, Ball went on to star on another sitcom, Here's Lucy, from 1968 to 74. In the series, Ball's character, Lucy Hinckley Carter, was living in LA as a widow while raising her 2 kids, Kim and Craig, portrayed by her real-life son and daughter, Desi Arnaz Jr. and Lucy Arnaz. The series aired 144 episodes over 6 seasons. In 1972, Ball sustained a leg fracture in a skiing accident. Because of her injury, she spent the majority of the 1972-73 season in a leg cast. It was explained in the show by her character Lucy also breaking her leg. But Ball was still left with decreased ability to do physical comedy as a result of this injury. By 1973, Here's Lucy was struggling in the ratings. For the first time, it was no longer in the top 10. After dropping to number 15, Ball decided she wanted the show to end at the close of its 5th season. But at the last minute, CBS's Fred Silverman was able to convince her to do one last season. In 1974, after production on Here's Lucy's 6th season wrapped, Ball finally ended her 23-year stretch of regularly appearing on TV. But she didn't completely retire from acting. In 1985, she returned to the TV screen in the made-for-TV film Stone Pillow, taking on a more dramatic role. Ball continued to make occasional appearances in film and TV until her death in April of 1989 at age 77. Now it's time to hear from you. Which Lucille Ball TV show are you the biggest fan of? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.